welcoming you to today's webinar titled How to Build Trust Across Difference in Your Community. My name is Anthony Salas. I'm the events director with Welcoming America. And before we get started, just a few quick housekeeping items for you. This is being recorded, and before the end of the week, we will share the recording with you as well as any resources or information shared as part of the presentation. If there are any of you that use AI bots for recording, if there are any in here, we will remove those because we are providing the recording. So we want to be that official provider of that. So just noting that. And then as the presentation goes on, we know you're going to have questions, and we hope you do. So if you can, use the chat area that you're using now to identify where you're joining us from. Use that for any technical questions that you might have related to the platform if you're having any issues. And then if you have questions on the content, primarily if you can use the Q&A function and enter your questions there. But if you do find the chat easier, absolutely fine doing that as well. I am thrilled to have our friends from Civity joining us today. They have been longtime partners of Welcoming America, and we're just thrilled to have them join us today. Malka Koppel, who is the co-founder and CEO, and Palma Strand, who is the co-founder and research director. And again, it's going to be a great presentation. Really excited to have them here. So with that, I'm going to stop my screen sharing. And Malka, I will turn it over to you.
Thank you, Anthony, and hello, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. We've had the opportunity to work with Welcoming America several times, and so it was great to be able to do this workshop today. What we're going to do today is give you kind of a taste of what Civity does in the field, explain the who and the what and how of Civity, and a little bit of the why, and then give you a chance to practice some of the exercises that we do. Civity is, for those of you who don't know, is a national nonprofit organization. We've been around 10 years, and what we do is train leaders in communities to build trust. And we've worked with some of you, I believe, so it's great to see. All right, and so this is our agenda for today. We'll have a chance, as Anthony said, to have some discussion at the end, and you'll have a chance to connect with at least one other person in the middle. So enjoy. I'll turn over to Palma.
Well, good afternoon, morning, wherever you are. It's good to see folks from all over the country. As Anthony said, I'm Palma Strand, and we're going to start by thinking about intentionality. And we start when we have a smaller group. We go around and do this with everyone, but today we're just going to kind of model it with a few people. And so maybe as I do this with Malka and Anthony and myself, I am going to invite you to kind of think to yourself how you would answer. You've already answered some of the questions. We usually go around and say, please state your name, where you're physically located, and what organization you're with. Some of you have already put this in the chat. And then we invite people to share something that they do almost every day. Name, location, organization, and something that they do almost every day. And I'll start. I'm Palma Strand. I'm with Civity. I'm here in Arlington, Virginia, which is right outside of Washington, D.C. And something that I do almost every day is I have grown kids who live in other parts of the country, but my husband and I and our kids have a family text that we post to randomly with stuff that's of interest or not so much interest almost every day. Malka, would you go next?
Sure. Malka Koppel from Civity, and I am in San Francisco today, where I live. And something that I do almost every day, I didn't do it today, is I take about a 45-minute long walk around my hilly neighborhood and end up at home with a cup of chai that I make.
Thanks, Malka. And Anthony, we're going to put him on the spot. Anthony, would you go ahead?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for including me in this. And I love that some of you are putting it into the chat as well. So if anyone wants to do that, please do. So yes, Anthony Salas. I am in Chicago and with Welcoming America. And I got to cheat a little bit on this because they shared these questions with me yesterday so I could get ready. And the question to what do I do almost every day, I realized I forgot the almost part. So my answer to that, I had already shared with them, was going to be that I walk my dog at least 4 times a day or as many times as she stares at me to get a walk. So that's not almost every day, but it definitely is every day. So yeah, I'll turn it
Wonderful.
back over to you now, Palma.
That's great. Thank you. So you can kind of see from the samples that there's kind of a range here. And I'm gonna pick on Anthony a little bit. That people say things like I walk my dog, or I walk my dog when my dog tells me I need to be walked. They need to be walked. People talk about, sometimes they do something centering in the morning, whether it's meditation or prayer, something like that. Sometimes people talk about, putting their kids to bed or making a meal for their family, calling a relative, who's a distance away. Some people go outside for a walk or enjoy their garden. So there's a range of things that people do almost every day. And what this does is it starts to move us into kind of thinking intentionally about how and what we're sharing of ourselves. So I'm a talker with hands, so I'm going to start with my hands here. I'm going to invite you to think of a scale of sort of 1 up here to 10 down here. 1 is kind of what we think of as maybe small talk, kind of how's the weather? I'm going to, again, pick on Anthony. I walk my dog. It's something that tells you just a little bit about that person, but not very much, right? But then when he adds, well, I walk my dog 4 times a day, then you start to get a sense of that he really loves that dog, and that's a really big part of his life. And that takes us down a little deeper into who Anthony is. Right? Takes us down to maybe a 1.5 or even a 2. It's like, oh, he's a person who doesn't just have a dog, he really loves that dog. So down at 10 is what we often, what we share with like our closest, our most intimate friends and family. And we're not inviting you to go there today. For our conversations here, I'm going to kind of invite you to be at what we think of as a 2.5 or 3, which is sharing something that's meaningful and genuine, but not going so deep as you would with someone that you know really well. So now I'm going to use myself as an example. I gave the response of saying that I would, what I do every day is have this family text. But if I went a little further, I might say, my kids are grown. They live across the country. We're a very tight family. And that group family text, kind of recreates that sense of being around the dinner table when my kids were at home and younger, and we were sharing kind of whatever had happened with the day, whatever struck us. It keeps that kind of closeness alive, and that's really, really important to us. So that takes it from maybe like a 1.5, 2 to a 2.5, 3. And that's where we're going to, like I say, we're going to invite you to be. The scale is not like, this is not like an absolute scale. Everybody has their own sense of, of what that means, right? Some people are really forthcoming. Some people are more reserved. We live in cultures that are more, a little bit quieter, or more kind of out there. It's not, like I said, it's not an absolute scale. It's a way to think about, maybe I can go beyond that sort of chit chat, what I think of as the cocktail party conversation, to offer something that's meaningful to me, that's genuine, that's authentic about who I am. And it can feel a little risky, right? Because it's not what we always do. But we've found that if you offer a little bit of who you are, you offer that authenticity at a not too deep level, but going a little deeper, people really respond and really reciprocate, right? So it's kind of an invitation to somebody who you meet casually, or somebody who you're kind of more on a business-like stance with, to develop that kind of authentic human connection with someone. And that's being intentional, is having a way to think about, oh, how am I going to show up in this conversation with this person? Malka, anything I've forgotten before I move on? No? Okay, good. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the kind of what and why and how of Civity. And so I'm going to share my screen, which I have to go down here. All right. So Civity is a word that we kind of borrowed, recreated, repurposed from the Latin. It's from the same root as civic, city, citizen. And we've given it the definition of a culture of deliberately engaging in relationships of respect, that's I see you, and empathy, I hear you, with others who are different. And we focus on a lot of different kinds of differences. We focus generally on the divides that keep people apart in communities. So, that could be race or economics or geography, religion, immigration status, politics. There's all kinds of differences that keep people apart. And all of those differences are the kind of difference that we center our work on. We really are focused on culture building, which I know is also a big priority at Welcoming America. And we know, and I expect that most of you know, that culture is something that everybody contributes to. It's something that we all, our actions and interactions are what create the culture. And so we in a sense, kind of point our finger back at everyone else. So we all are the ones who make Civity happen. We work with a lot of community leaders, local leaders, and what we think of is the work that we do at Civity and that you do at Civity, is building relational infrastructure. So infrastructure, we're used to thinking of physical infrastructure, which is like, roads and bridges. We're used to thinking of civic infrastructure, which is institutions and organizations like those that you all represent. But the relational infrastructure is sort of that network, that web of relationships in communities that make everything else possible, that underlie everything else. And our work of building relational infrastructure is focused on conversation, that this is a way to build relationship. We're all used to building, engaging people in conversation as a way to build relationship. And sometimes people are like, oh, conversation, that's not so relevant. I really want to get to the action. And we really want to emphasize that when it comes to building relationships, conversation is action. And engaging in a conversation isn't nothing. In fact, it's really important. We sometimes call the work that we do the conversation before the conversation, because in communities, and again, I expect that you all are very familiar with this, communities are facing all kinds of really challenging issues around housing, mental health, education, you name it. Those conversations are made possible, in a sense, by the conversations that are relational, that creating those relational conversations, the Civity conversations, create those relationships that make moving forward on those other conversations possible. I came to this work as a community member myself, and I noticed that when people were in relationship across different kinds of potential divides, things could move forward, although they were often challenging. But when people were not in relationship, things really got stuck. And so having those relationships is really essential for moving forward. We have 3 touchstones at Civity. The first is that relationships are foundational. The second is that connections across difference, and particularly connections across difference, are powerful. And the third is that individuals can transform communities. We take a systems view towards understanding sort of what culture is and how communities work, and how people interact with each other affects the whole community, the whole culture, the whole system. The work that we do has been affirmed by known as the Stanford Mega Study. It was a large-scale social science study out of Stanford University, where they invited, they were focused on reducing the potential for reducing partisan animosity and political polarization in particular. And they invited virtual interventions of less than 8 minutes to see if they could have an effect on people. They had over 250 entries. They chose 25 to test. Ours was one of them. And we were thrilled when the Civity storytelling intervention that we submitted was tested to be #1 at increasing social trust, and then the others that you see on the slide. The Civity storytelling intervention, although it was sort of virtual in one way, is based on the work that we do in real life, whether that's virtually in real life or in person in real life. That small interactions really make a difference. Small matters, because we're so socially attuned. I'd be really we'd be remiss if we didn't sort of mention power dynamics, that a lot of the differences that we're focused on have power dynamics, deep-seated often power dynamics. And the work that we do does not eliminate those power dynamics. What it does do is it kind of adds a horizontal dimension, a person-to-person, I see you dimension, seeing a person who is, on the other side of a division as a complex, a whole person. So it complicates what might other be a power dynamic relationship. The workshops that we do kind of have 3 parts. The first is being intentional. We've actually already talked about that. The second is being authentic. We're going to get to that in just a minute, and you're going to have some opportunity to participate rather than listening to us talk. And the third is connecting across difference, which we don't have time for today, but I'll say a few words about after we do the authenticity part. And specifically the authenticity kind of conversations that are the center of this taste today, and that we're going to get to in a minute, are based on stories, personal stories, that because a story is the shortest distance between people. I'm going to stop sharing my slides and hand it back to Malka.
Thank you, Palma. Okay, so we wanted to, even though we're only giving you a taste of our workshop, we wanted to give you a chance to interact with each other. And this exercise that we're going to do is, we call it moving from head to heart. And I should say that, even though this is only part of our workshop, anything that we do here, we hope that you will feel free to use and in your own gatherings, in your own meetings. So a little bit of logistics first. We're going to put you into one-on-one breakout groups, that is, breakout groups of pairs. We realize there are a lot of people, and I expect it's possible that not everyone will be able to engage in a 10-minute conversation. So do not worry. If you can't, and you're in a group and you can't be in a breakout group, if you're left alone and want to talk with someone, just go into the main meeting and we'll match you up with someone else. So this exercise is 10 minutes, as I said, a conversation between 2 people. And we're going to ask you in that conversation to answer the question, why do I do what I do? As Palma said, the importance of stories it can't be underestimated. This is a chance to tell your story in 3 to 5 minutes, and then you have a chance for the other person to tell their story. Simple exercise. So I'll model. Why do I do what I do? So I came to this work. I'm a community organizer. I've been working in communities for 30 years, and kind of, Paul and I started this conversation about 20 years ago, kind of looking at how communities solve problems and the barriers to that problem solving. And one of the biggest barriers is how people feel about each other, and how they see or don't see each other, right? And that's kind of the head reason that I came into this work. But I would say that this started way before 20 years ago for me. Started for me when I was a kid. So I am biracial. My mother is Indian, from India, and my father was a nice Jewish guy from the Bronx. And we moved to Silicon Valley when I was 8 in the 60s. And Silicon Valley was very different from how it is now. There were very few Indians there. I thought that my 2 sisters and I were the only Hindus around. I felt lonely and different, like all kids do, but I was also being a shy kid. I'm still shy. That was compounded. And the way that I got through things is by listening and talking to people one at a time. And I cannot tell you that how wonderful that felt to be part of a conversation. I still remember how that felt, and also how it felt to include somebody else in a conversation, to see them as well. So I learned the power that we all have as human beings to include, to share, to help people see that they matter. And I do what I do because I want to bring that power to others, and to show people what we all can do. So that's my story. Didn't take too long. You can obviously answer the question any way you want. Doesn't have to have a beginning, middle, and an end. What I would suggest is that you take a couple of minutes. The conversation's about 10 minutes, but we have a little bit longer in the exercise. So take a couple of minutes to think about what you want to say, so that you're not interrupting or not thinking while the other person is talking. And then one person start. Let's say the person whose first name is at the closest to the beginning of the alphabet. Talk for 2 to 3 minutes and then switch. And we'll remind you halfway through to switch in case you haven't. The role of the listener is also really important here. So feel free to listen, bring your own authentic self into the listening role as well as the speaking role. But don't try not to speak aloud, but feel free to go in your head. Yeah. Oh, I can relate to that. Or, oh, that's really different. Again, just listen as a full person as well. But listen quietly so that the other person has a chance and the space to tell their story. Welcome back, everybody. And thanks to those of you for your patience who were left alone and we had to regroup you. So I hope everybody got a chance to have a conversation. It's always interesting doing this exercise. And when we do it in person, the hardest part is actually getting people to come back into the main room. Of course, when we do it in Zoom, it's easy. Welcome back, and what I would love is to take a little time to give you a chance to debrief your experience. So, what I'm interested in knowing is not what happened, not the story that happened between you, or the story that you heard, or the story that you shared, but how you felt about sharing your story and how you felt about listening to other people's stories. So why don't you just, if you'd like to share, please send a message in chat. How did it feel? Empowered and inspired. Easy and connected, nice. Natural, connected. listened to and affirmed. Enjoyed it. Amazing. Pleasant. Interesting and engaging. Connected. Kindred spirit. Thankful for being heard. Easy, because that's what we do all the time. Yeah, isn't it? Although I must say that many of us don't do it while we're working, right? Lots of things in common. So I just want to point out that, we work in groups all the time, right? We're always in groups, but this is something that you can do in a group. You can put people in a conversation with one other person. We really value the one-on-one conversation because it's a pretty efficient way of sharing, right? A pretty efficient way of connecting, a pretty efficient way of storytelling. Even in 10 minutes, you each have a chance to share. And so it's maximum sharing time and maximum listening time in a one-on-one conversation. I think that one-on-one conversations are underappreciated. So again, I encourage you to use the opportunity to put people in one-on-ones in your own meetings. Yes, sometimes we call this our finding common ground conversation too, because many people do find that they have things in common. We'll talk about difference in a second. But this exercise should be and is designed to be easy and enjoyable, because what we want is we want people to take this what they did in the workshops, in the kind of the formal situation out in the world, and have these conversations with people maybe that they don't know that well, but to give other people a chance to share their stories, and to give you all a chance to share yours. Palma, is there anything you want to add here?
Just that sometimes we think of this as kind of an exchange of gifts, that when you share your own story with someone, you're offering something of yourself, you're offering a gift. And then when the person listening is also offering a gift, because it's pretty rare that somebody really listens. Listening is kind of a rare commodity in our culture. And so that also is a really important gift of being just listening and really being present for another person.
Yeah. One of the comments we got in our workshop is, I tell my story a lot, but I really appreciated this because I knew that the other person was supposed to listen to me. And so there you go, because we gave instructions to that effect. So, yeah. Okay, I'm going to turn it back to Palma to talk about difference.
Right. So the name of this workshop or taste is building social trust across difference. So I'm going to share my screen again. And you can see that. When we do our full workshop, we start with intentionality. We do the authenticity kind of foundation that you all just did. Get that out of the way. And then we move into connecting across difference. And the kind of the heart of that connecting across difference part is another one-on-one conversation with a different person in the workshop that focuses on a difference between those two people. And we kind of get to that in a variety of ways. We usually do some kind of lead up to it. Sometimes we do what we call our prairie grass exercise, which invites people to kind of think of their own identities as similar to prairie grass, in that there are parts that are kind of visible and above the ground, which are often, a few things. Like for me, I'm a woman, I'm of a certain age, I'm white. But that there are so many more aspects to who we are that are just like the prairie grass roots, kind of hidden or below the ground, and to kind of share those aspects of our identity. So we invite people to kind of reflect on their own identities and then share those with a partner, identify a difference between the two of them, and then tell a story about that. Sometimes when we're working with local communities, like in a group from a single area, we ask them, what are the differences that keep people apart in your community? And you would not be surprised. There are many of the same things bubble up over and over again: race, economics, geography, politics, etc. And then we ask people in the workshop to pick one of those differences, find someone who is different from them on that difference, and tell a story. And again, that one-on-one conversation really kind of makes for that human connection, and kind of demystifies the difference. People often find that kind of going in through the difference, they still find a lot of commonality. Though, if you're interested in kind of seeing what this looks like, Civity was featured, our work with Leadership Rhode Island in Providence was featured on CBS America at a Crossroads this summer. And you can go to our website and look for the link to about a 10-minute segment that really kind of brings what we're talking about today to life. We offer a range of resources. We do workshops we do an introduction to Civity. We do kind of a longer 3-hour building social trust across difference. And we do train the trainer. And we also have a newsletter, a podcast. We think it's really important for people to kind of know that building Civity is possible. I'm sure that you all, in the work that you do in your communities, know that building these relationships across difference is something that we can do. And then we also have a section on our website of do-it-yourself Civity, of resources for people who want to engage in conversations and relationship building on their own. And that's us. I'm going to stop sharing my screen and hand it back to Malka.
I think I'm going to hand it back to Anthony for Q&A.
Excellent. Thank you both so much. So as I put in the chat there, if you do have a question, please, you can use actually either one. You can use the Q&A feature, add your question there, or put it here into the chat, and we will address your question. Or comment if you want to make a comment. Comment further about your experience that you just had with your conversation. That is great as well. There we go. We got a couple that came in here. So one question is, how often do you do webinars like this?
Well, we do them all the time. I guess normally we work with partners. Welcoming America, as I mentioned earlier, has been a partner several times, and so we're usually invited in to do our workshops by the partner, either the national partner or a local partner. We are a national organization, but we work locally. However, we also sometimes offer workshops for the public, and we have workshops that Palma mentioned on our website now. That kind of the 3 levels of our workshops on our website. At the moment, they're all going to be in late fall. So, and we expect that we're going to do more of that. We've gotten a lot of interest in individuals taking our workshops. So, if you get on our mailing list, you'll find out about them.
I'm just looking at the questions, and I want to follow up on, somebody asked about an overview of what the train the trainer looks like and what a trainer would be prepared to do. The train the trainer is kind of going through the entire workshop but also giving people, as they go through the entire workshop, the sort of the kind of why we do this piece and a little, some tips on how to do it. And what we find is that people who are already doing facilitation or training can integrate Civity into the work that they do pretty seamlessly. And the Civity exercises are designed to do that, so that you can, take that and integrate it into something that you do. Yeah.
I have a question, a couple of them that came in here that I'm going to combine because they're somewhat similar, but I think it really speaks to where we are today. And question is, how do we motivate community members to find the time to meet members that are perceived different? Or the other question was to ensure diversity, especially across the political spectrum that is so divided right now.
Yeah, I'll take a crack at that. Yes, it's hard to motivate the community members to find the time to do anything, right? Everybody is busy. And one of the reasons we focus on training leaders like you is to incorporate these opportunities for connection across difference in other meetings that you have. In the meetings that you have around particular issues, for example, which people who are interested in those issues will come to. It is hard to bring people together just to meet someone who is different. But if, let's say, you're talking about affordable housing, for example, you're having a community meeting about affordable housing, there is an opportunity there in that meeting to give people a chance to meet people who are different from them in one-on-one conversations. They can turn to the person next to them. They can, we have opportunity, we do exercises to get people into conversations across difference. But it's, you don't have to save these for meetings about connection across difference. I encourage you to use them in your other meetings.
And I think another one that kind of tags along there too, with that same theme, is in creating those safe places where people can talk about themselves. I think, with Zoom, what we just did in those conversations may be different than in person. So how do you create that safe space?
In Zoom versus, yes. Palma, do you want to take that one?
Yeah, I mean, I think that a lot of times when people are focused on, kind of, I'm looking at this like people who really disagree, that a lot of times those disagreements are what we think of as head disagreements. And the work that we do is very intentionally like kind of putting those strong disagreements about opinions or politics or whatever to the side and kind of focusing on who people are as human beings and creating a very structured way for them to interact in a way that limits their interaction in a sense to that who you are as a person. Why do I do what I do? Tell a personal story, where that personal story is who you are. And in that one-on-one context, we're kind of programmed to connect, and it puts people in a position of relating and creating that human to human relationship that we see as the foundation for those other, I disagree strongly, but not, very intentionally not going there in this particular conversation. And our experience is that creates a safe space for people to share that part of who they are.
So it's really less of kind of the platform, whether it's in person or Zoom, but more about the framing.
And someone just put in the chat too, kind of comparing it to building commonalities, putting that face to the person, creating that relationship. Palma, like you said at the start of this, what we did with our kind of introductions, you start to learn a little bit about the individual, and that really is kind of basing a relationship and building that from there. So just listening, I think, is a big part of it.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
and I'll add too. It's like building commonalities. People do often find things that they have in common, and it is also about understanding people's differences, right? And
Yeah.
so what we're really going for is, oh, I see you. You are a complicated person. You are many things, some similar and some difference, and you are in my community.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, the work that we do, there's a progression. You know, we start with those introductions, which sort of get people sharing a little bit, and then we do the stories that you did, which, you know, kind of get people a little bit more comfortable. And then we move to difference. So we're not like plunging people into, okay, so we want you to find a really charged difference and go right there. It's you know, it builds people, oh, I can do this, and we're kind of all in the same page here, so that I feel comfortable doing that.
One kind of specific question that I would like to make sure we include is around any work that you have done in connecting law enforcement with nonprofits or with communities. I think we did a webinar about a month or so ago about kind of making that connection again with the climate that it is currently. And I think that's just something that's top of mind for a lot of our members and our partners. So, you know, if there's anything that you can share that you've done in terms of that connection between law enforcement and nonprofits, I think that would be appreciated.
I would say, first of all, there are a lot of members of law enforcement community that attend our community-based workshops. We did one specific project in Louisville, Kentucky, with the Louisville Police Department that was actually heading up a committee on uh, uh, trial reform, and included nonprofits in its committee. That I think, yeah, I think it's certainly the kinds of things that we're talking about are very relevant, because what we talk about is helping people see people, and the same thing that you talk about.
There's one comment, or I guess it's in the Q&A, that I'd like to
Yeah,
answer.
please do.
So some of the kind of ways that we frame, like the conversation is action. The question is hard to explain to other people who want to measure, and the question is, how do you convey that? And that is a really question that we have really grappled with. And I think that our answer to that is that we've tried to actually, and this sounds kind of odd, we've tried to become actually quite analytical about relationships, to really kind of think about, you know, what exactly we're trying to do, how exactly we're doing it, what is the you know, people, I think sometimes you hear the word relationship and it's like, oh, that's fuzzy, and a lot of people actually don't even think about the relationships that we're focused on here, which are sort of your relationships with just the people in your community. Don't even really think about those as relationships, because relationships are like friends and family. And what we're saying is, you know, no, these relationships really are relationships. And we're going to try to be intentional and observant, and really kind of be careful about describing how they work and what they do. And that's not always, it's not always enough, but it goes a long way towards sort of giving people some confidence that, oh, okay, this is really a thing, and there is something tangible and real there. It's not just like, oh yeah, whatever, you know, fuzzy stuff that doesn't matter.
Well, Malka and Palma, thank you both so very much for spending the hour with us today. It went by really quickly. So we are already at the top of the close of the hour. So I do want to stay respectful of your time and our attendees as well, but extend a really big thank you on behalf of everyone on the presentation today. We really appreciate you both sharing your time with us today. For those of you joining, I know there's some of you that aren't members yet. So if you want to learn more about Welcoming America, our organization, there are some links here on the site right now. Invite you to check us out, join our social channels. Please learn more about Welcoming America. And if you're interested in becoming a member, you can send an email to membership@welcomingamerica.org, and we'll share more information with you there. As I also mentioned earlier, this is being recorded and will be shared with all of you shortly before the end of the week. And once you get that, if you have any questions you want to follow up with, feel free to include those. I can pass those along to Malka and Palma and get you a response as quickly as possible. But on behalf of Welcoming America and again, Malka and Palma, thank you all for joining us today. We appreciate you taking the time out of your busy day to join us for this. Look forward to seeing you on our next webinar or presentation very soon. Have a great afternoon, everyone. Take care. Thank you.